Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Parent Engagement Strategies hosted by Healthy Schools campaign. We will be getting started in just a moment. I appreciate you being on time. We're just going to wait for a couple more people to jump on. Seems like everyone is logging on right now. So please be patient, and we will be with you shortly. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Give me just a moment to get my screen together. There we go. All right, so we are here at Healthy Schools campaign. We're going to be talking to you about parent engagement strategies today. While we get started, I just want to go over some of our workshop goals. So today we're going to be working to gain an understanding of the two models of parent engagement. We're going to learn tips and best practices for working with parents on school health and wellness issues, and explore your own organization's parent engagement goals. And I will be introducing myself in just a moment. Just wanted to give you some more background on what to expect. Our webinar will run approximately about an hour. A recording of the webinar will be made available to your organization. Please answer any polls as they appear on your screen, which will look something like this. While we are all getting to know each other, I would like to know, what is your favorite genre of music? Please select which one that you like, whether that be country, pop, hip hop, rap, R&B, or rock. So please answer. If you have any questions, please ask them at any point on your on that little side screen. That should have a drop-down menu for questions. Please add your name and the region in which you are from, so that we know exactly who's asking the question. And then at the end of the webinar, please take a minute to complete the survey that'll pop up on your screen. And so we're going to go ahead and close out that poll. It looks like, please share. It looks like the majority of you enjoy pop music. Next is rock, and then we do have some hip hop fans. All right, get my email. We can talk shop later. And then next on our agenda, we're going to be doing the welcome. So that would be this, welcome. And then we're going to be talking about some parent engagement models, some strategies for recruiting, meeting, and activating parents. We're going to have some discussion at the end. But again, if you have any questions, please ask them at any point. Just include your name and the region in which you're from. And I'll leave some space at the end for closing remarks as well. So the first few slides I'm going to go through like pretty quickly, just because I want to leave some time at the end for us to really ask like any questions. And so if you have any specific questions, feel free to ask. I am Kenneth Varner. I am the Community Engagement Coordinator, Community Engagement Manager with Healthy Schools Campaign. I've been here for about 3.5 years. I work with schools through our Space to Grow program, primarily on the south and west side, which would be the African American communities. Also here we have Jovita, who's our manager for Parents United for Healthy Schools. She has led parents organizing for Healthy Schools campaign for over 10 years and has a list of major accomplishments that we'll get into later. Also in the room, we have my colleague, Tia. She is part of our communications team and will be helping to make sure things run smoothly. Tia, say hello to the people, please.
Hello.
She's awesome. And then we also have Sam from Big Green, who's also in the room with us. So if you have any questions specifically for him, please let him know. And if you're having any technical issues, I believe he sent out, I think y'all have his contact info. Please let him know. For example, if the sound just goes out, I'm not going to know until someone communicates with Sam to let me know that you can't hear me.
Hey, everybody.
That's Sam. So a little bit about Healthy Schools Campaign. We are a nonprofit based in Chicago, but we also work on state and national policy. We've been around for about 15 years. We believe in the common sense notion that every child deserves a healthy environment where they can learn and thrive. And to achieve our goals, we realize that we need parents to be involved, but to achieve lasting change, we need parents to be engaged. So before we go any further into those differences, I have a question that I've posted to some members of your organization, and we're going to get those answers. So my question before we get started is, why do you or does your organization care about parent engagement? For those of you that we have asked that question to, can you please raise your hand? That will be next to your name in the attendees drop down. Just raise your hand and then we can call and you can unmute you so that everyone can hear you. All right, so the first person we're going to have is Diana Zegers. Yeah. All right, so we're going to go ahead and hear from Diana.
Hello all. So on behalf of the national office, I think a response that we have to this question is that we recognize the value of families and the lives of children. We recognize that we are an extension of those families and their values, and that we really are charged with caring with their most prized possession, and therefore parent engagement needs to be a high priority for us.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for sharing that. We had another person online as well. Is there one? All right. Don't see any hands. Oh, there it is. So now we have Evan Davis. Can we please hear from you?
Yes, hello. I am reading a statement from Jenny, who is, she has no voice right now. So this is from Jenny in Memphis. Our Big Green region values parental engagement as a means to build capacity within our Learning Garden teams, and also as an asset to our school communities. Parental engagement is one measure that a school reports out to the broader community as it demonstrates value added and community commitment to the school. As a result, any parental engagement we are able to garner with the Learning Garden is essentially an asset to the school's overall engagement report. Parental engagement also provides a welcome support to any school-based Learning Garden team members, as well as creating a link to the broader school community beyond the schoolyard. As parents engage with the Learning Gardens, they are transferring that knowledge and skill set into their networks and homes. Parental engagement is a win for gardens and school communities.
Thank you very much for reading that, especially on behalf of the person that has lost their voice. I'm sorry that has happened to you. And then next, we would like to hear from Sam.
Yeah, so I just think sticking to Big Green's mission, we are trying to create a healthier future for youth through learning gardens and food literacy programs. And when thinking about working with youth, I don't think it is effective to think about them in isolation. And parents and guardians are huge influencers, like maybe the largest influencer in many cases in youth's lives. And so I think anybody working with youth, it behooves us to consider, think about, engage parents as maybe the most important stakeholders in their lives.
Awesome. Yeah, everything that I've heard thus far is directly in line with what Healthy Schools Campaign believes as well, and you'll see that throughout the presentation. Things that I've heard just now are about children being the most precious resource, the thinking of things in the eyes of it being a community, like the whole school community working together, and parents being like the largest influence in like kids' lives. So yes, that's all perfectly in line with HSC. So I'm very glad to hear that you have that. That is part of your mission, as it is ours. So I want to talk about two models of parent engagement. So parent organizing and there's parent involvement. Both are great, but you have to be very intentional about which one you're choosing to do. And the differences are a little subtle, but they're significant at the same time. Parent organizing is when you get to know what a parent's desires are and what they are motivated by enough to take action. And as an organizer, you can help define the goals, but it's the parents that come up with the steps to accomplish those goals. You are the one that provides them with what they need to speak on their own behalf, so providing those tools, and you also help them accomplish those tasks. For example, when we help our garden teams, it is the parents that decide what produce they want to grow and what the produce will be used for. So they're at the table when making those decisions. Then parent involvement is when you already have an action planned and you would like parents to participate. This is more of like a helping hands model. Examples of this in schools are like when parents go on field trips and they're like the chaperones. So they didn't pick what the field trip was. They didn't plan any of the logistics. They're just pretty much there to go along, keep the kids in line, and make sure there's not too many kids going to the bathroom at the same time, right? So that's when you really want your parents involved. And both things are great. You just have to know whether or not what you're trying to accomplish, you need to go with an organizing approach or you want an involvement approach, right? So for example, for us, for parent involvement, so we do some parent engagement, where we sit down with parents and we get to know what they're interested in, and we can help them activate on increasing like the health and wellness in the school. But then there are other times where we have things like volunteer days, where we have our schoolyard projects where we need help with planting and weeding and things like that. So we will plan an activity and we'll bring out all of the volunteers. That is also another way in which you can get to know people and engage, so you can get parents involved in order to organize those parents as well. So they don't have to be completely separate from one another, but just please know that there is a difference. So for us, for our approach, we focus more on engagement. We show parents that increasing health and wellness is an approach that they can use to achieve their own goals, which someone did mention earlier in their response. But before we go into that, before we explain what we'd like them to do, we explain the state of affairs and why they should be involved. For example, it is our firm belief that all students deserve the opportunity to be healthy and successful. So why do parents send their children to school? What do they want for their children in the long run? Parents want their children to be happy, get an education, and grow up to be happy, successful adults. So, and that is the same thing that aligns with our mission. So we then show them the situation in which children are living and the barriers to the goals that they've already stated. So I'm going to be showing you just our approach in engaging with parents. And this is going to be specifically Chicago related, but these are the kind of things that you can use in order to motivate and engage your parents. So when engaging, we explain the why before we get to the what. What you're looking at now is the breakdown of CPS students with the Chicago Public Schools, and those that are either overweight or obese, and this is about 43%. This also illustrates that this is primarily on the south, southwest, and west sides, which is going to be focusing in the Latinx communities as well as the African American communities. So we're showing them exactly why their participation is important, and we also explain why our mission fits into the desire that they already have. We don't underestimate the knowledge of parents, but we never assume that parents are armed with the same knowledge that we have. It's important to get on the same page. So in speaking about the levels of obesity in children, we can then speak about the cycle of multi-generational disease and disproportionate effects that it has on the Black and brown people of our community. And this is all about connecting with parents and their desires for their own families. We'll also go into showing parents how health concerns have adverse effects on students' educations, especially in the realm of chronic absenteeism. So right now we have about 1 in 5 of Chicago public school students are missing at least 17 days of school. It's obvious that if a child isn't in school, then they're not learning. Some parents may think that this doesn't affect them because their child is healthy and never misses school, but they'd be wrong on that. One child missing school can set back the entire class because the teacher then has to divert the time to bring that child up to speed, and then the rest of the class is going to be missing out. So sometimes you're going to have parents that think, well, this doesn't necessarily affect me, but it does. It's important for all of us to create that healthy environment, and that's more of the why people should be involved. And then we also want to make it clear and define our terms. So when we say we as Healthy Schools Campaign want to create a healthy school, we need to educate everyone on exactly what we mean by that. So be clear with what your goals are, and don't assume that people have the same understanding. We all must define our terms. We will then also educate the parents on what the district's policies are. This validates what we're teaching, and we also give the parents the tools to advocate on their own behalf and on behalf of their child. We also educate parents on the accountability structures that are in place in the district. This is another tool for advocacy and the way that they can monitor their own progress. So if there are things that relate to your work with Big Green that a school should be doing for the benefits of the students, and those schools are not providing those things, get the parents involved, right? So show them what those accountability structures are, show them where their power lies and how they can make those changes. So our approach is to engage the parents. We help them to build their advocacy power, and we also build that community of parents that are working together. And by tapping into the power of parents, we have bore this fruit. So we have brought back recess in schools and CPS that was gone for over 20 years. We've worked with the district to improve their physical education policy. That was by collecting around 7,000 signatures. That was through the work of Jovita and Parents United for Healthy Schools campaign. We brought breakfast back into the classroom, and now that all students are required to get breakfast no matter what time they get to school. That was through all of the work that we're doing the Healthy Schools campaign that would not have been accomplished without the power of parents. I cannot state that enough. Without the power of parents, that could not have happened. So, but before we go any further, I want to ask you one more question. Which parent engagement model do you think would work best for you in the work that you're doing? So answer that poll question. Whether it be organizing, whether it be involvement, or if there's like a hybrid of the two. All right, we're gonna go ahead and share that. All right. So a hybrid of the two seems to be like the vast majority, and some say involvement. So you're about like 71% saying a hybrid of the two, others saying involvement. To me, that sounds great. There are going to be times where organizing is the way to go, and sometimes it's going to be involvement is the way to go. It all depends on exactly what's going on with your organization and where that lies. For us, we focus more on organizing than involvement, but that fits more into what we're doing. So with Parents United, We identify and adopt strategies to address those health disparities through the parent self-determination. The parents are the ones that lead the school-based change by engaging school leadership, and we also build that community of support that that I mentioned earlier. So for our next discussion question, and this is going to be open to anyone, we're just going to take a few volunteers. In your community, which model have you seen work? And what has worked, what has not worked? Have you worked with these before? Are there any like pros and cons that you would want to talk about? Please raise your hand, as many have done earlier, and just let me know what your thoughts are. So for those of you, just look at your attendees, look next to your name and just click on a hand to raise. I am going to call on Sam first to get us started. So in your community, which model have you worked with or seen, and what has worked, what has not worked?
I feel like I've seen more involvement in Big Green's work, especially because we're so hyper-focused on the learning garden itself. It provides an opportunity for easy parent involvement, whether it's out of school time watering or helping to come and support a class that's coming out into the garden as an extra, as a volunteer, as an extra set of hands in that garden.
Right.
I feel like that's the most frequent parent engagement kind of method that we've used, and it does work. I think it does kind of create a stronger community and a broader base of support for that garden. It creates more intergenerational learning opportunities. It helps to support a more inclusive culture at a school when more parents feel welcome into that school garden, and kind of extending that culture kind of from and to the end of that two-way street between the garden and the school and back and forth.
Yeah, that's great, because sometimes, even looking at it from the perspective of a parent may be more apt to get involved than be engaged. They just may not have the time, like the resource of time to dedicate into being engaged. So maybe they can't be at the school every day, but when you do like plan an opportunity for them to come in and do some work in the garden and stuff like that, they can do that. They have that hour on whatever day that is that they can give to you. But then that can also lead to, like what you're saying, bridging that gap between the garden. They're involved with you in the garden, and then they start to say, oh, there are other things, there are other opportunities that that I can do with the school. I would like to be here more often. And then that parent becomes engaged because you've now sparked that in them. So that, yes, involvement is a great way to go as well. All right, and we are going to call on Diana again. Diana, sorry, can't see it from this laptop. Yes, but you can go, please.
Hey, I'm not sure I raised my hand, but we sure would be happy to chime in. I think that Sam shared a lot of great points. There may be a benefit in the partnership between Big Green and the school, whereby Big Green supports the school's opportunity for organizing parents, understanding the school and school's community vision for their garden, and then facilitating involvement in the ways that we are able to from our perspective.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to chime in? Just gonna scroll through these names really quickly. If not, all right, moving on. So these are just gonna be some resources that we also just hand out that we provide, that we've created for parents. Feel free to look through these, and if it makes sense to provide similar tools to the parents that you're working with, just take that into consideration. So we've created like a guide for healthy schools for parents. Also, just mention this now, like don't want to leave everything on the table. Make sure they're in the language that the parents can understand. So if you're working with like bilingual communities, make sure that you're sensitive to that. That is also how you can just get to know the community, because that can be a real barrier. Sometimes people don't feel welcome, because why would I feel welcomed if you're not even going to take the time to put this flyer in the language that I speak, right? So a lot of those little things can go a very long way. So this is another page of resources. Don't worry, we will provide this to your organization with all the hyperlinks, so you don't have to be taking pictures with your cell phone right now. So, tips for engaging parents. In meeting parents, where am I? All right, so you have meeting parents, you have your one-on-ones. We're going to be leveraging some interest, and we're going to get into some general tips, all right? So in meeting parents, you want to take advantage of all opportunities, depending on what the capacity is for your organization or like where you are working with the school. So if you have an opportunity to go on field trips and to be that chaperone, that is a great way to meet parents. I understand that's not in everyone's like capacity. If you attend any family nights or anything like that that goes on at the schools, anytime that the parents are going to be in the building, just make sure that you're there, whether you can set up a resource table. Go to any, we have PAC and LSC meetings here, which will be the parent action councils and then the local school councils. So if there are any like governing bodies in your schools that have parents going to them, please attend if you can. Another thing I like to say is give before you ask. A lot of times, people are going to be very hesitant to come on board with what you are asking of them because they don't know you, right? Especially when you're dealing with communities such as like the African American communities, where we are used to organizations coming in, getting their photo op, and then leaving, making some sort of promise, and then they disappear. So it's like, you've used me, you've got my signature, you've got me posing with your CEO for this picture. It's going to go up on your website, and then I'm never going to hear from you again, and I'm back to where I started, right? So a lot of times when I work in schools, I'm there at Thanksgiving helping like pass out the turkeys. Like I'm going and just like I'm outside in the garden helping clean up. And without ever saying like, oh, this is what I need from you later on. It's just about, no, this is who I am. Because eventually parents are going to just inquire like, hey, I've seen you a few times. What is it that you do here? Oh, no, tell me more about that. Because now they're interested because they know that you are already invested in the thing that they're invested in. And they're going to want to get to know you. So just keep that in mind when you're trying to make these relationships, and also be very sensitive to the history of the communities that you're dealing with. And then for doing one-on-ones. So what is a one-on-one? It is an informal conversation about who each of you are. This is not necessarily about you pitching your organization. This is about you getting to know another person as another human being. It's about learning the different individuals' values. It's an opportunity to learn about the relevant power dynamics in the school. It's an opportunity to explain what you have to offer, engage their level of interest in your program. You also want to take this time to learn their availability. A lot of times parents aren't involved or engaged in the school because they work 9 to 5 and everything that happens is between 9 and 3 o'clock. So it's like, oh, parents aren't involved, parents won't come. They're at work. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so sometimes it can be really, really, really hard. So learn when they are available and try to schedule things around their availability. Another important thing about if you're trying to get to know parents is where you are having these meetings. Meet at a place that's convenient for them, that's comfortable, and conducive to the conversation that you are trying to have. For example, if you want to know the inner workings of a school, you may not want to have the meeting like in the principal's office when the principal is walking in and out, right? Like it seems like an obvious one, but sometimes they're like, oh yeah, you can use this room, you can use that room to have a meeting, but you're not going to get to know what's really going on at school. That parent may not feel comfortable opening up in a certain environment. So if you have to meet at the coffee shop a few blocks away, that might be the best thing that you can do. But again, if the parent is most comfortable in the parent room that's in the school, go there because, again, they may not know you, but they want to meet you in a safe place. So inquire where they would like to start out at. Go there. And then eventually, if you can meet them somewhere off-site, if you need to have, like there's times that we've had that happen with us, is like we're trying to get to know in administration. We're getting some we're just not getting somewhere. There's things going on. There's like something you can feel but no one's telling you. Have a meeting off-site, and then you get to hear everything. And you're like, oh, okay. And that will help inform how you engage with like the administration or like that school community. Just get a little bit of that background knowledge. Right? And then you also want to leverage the interest of what the parents have, what the parents are interested in. For example, with Parents United, you'll see Jovita here working with parents. And this is like a cooking class that they did together. Like, this is like bringing together some of like the African American community and the Latinx community. And they were just cooking together. Like, recognize the intersection of interests. Like, if you're having gardening programs, everyone eats, right? It's part of the human condition. So figure out how people like to eat and how that garden can feed into, no pun intended, into what they're already doing and what their interests are. And that's an opportunity to build those relationships. Nothing brings people together like food, right? So see what everyone's interests are, recognize those intersections, and capitalize on them. And then also, general tips. So when you're going to the meetings that I discussed earlier, we want to make sure that you sit toward the back of meetings, like when you're just visiting. And Jovita, jump in at any point if you want to comment on any of this, because all of this I've learned from you. So you sit toward the back of the meetings. This is going to give you an opportunity to see who's in the room. You'll be able to see like what the dynamics are, what power positions are being played, and things like that. You can see who is the person that is most active, who is most respected in that community. You're not going to see this by sitting in the front, because all of this is going to be happening behind you. And also, it can send the wrong message depending on if you're not of that community, regardless of race or gender. Like, as a new person coming in, you sit to the front, it sends the wrong message to people, because everyone's going to be like, yo, who's this person? So you're just going to come in, you feel like you're going to sit in the front, you're going to lead, you're going to be the one that's going to be most engaged. Like, never seen you in my life. Like, fall back, like literally. As I mentioned earlier, like, have a table during school events. Just be present as much as you can. Always have promotional material with you, whether it is for the flyer for the event that you have coming up, whether it's a one sheet on your organization. Just have those things on you. It'll credentialize you, as well as give them something to take away with that they can read on like their own at their own convenience. Also, speaking of like giving things to read, don't make it too wordy. Like, certain things, like sometimes you get a flyer and it's like 3 pages of something, and then for me, like, I know my mom didn't read any stuff that I brought home that had too much stuff. She didn't have the time. And I see that with my sister, with her kids, stuff is sitting on the table. She's like, I don't have time for that at all. So just be mindful of where parents are coming from, and then like, not necessarily what you're saying, but how you're saying it. Have consistent follow-ups with parents. I would also say just like those small action items when whether you're getting them involved or getting them organized, like something that you can check back in with, right? So even if let's say you have something from the garden, if you give them some produce, make sure that you remember that. And if you have that conversation about the salad, ask them how the salad was the next time. Like, you saw them, like, oh, what'd you do with it? Like, how do you turn out? If you gave them a little potted tomato plant, ask them how the plant is doing. That is a great conversation. Like, and people are going to be look out for you to be like, oh, Ken, this is what I did with the salad. I got a picture of it. Like, those are the priceless conversations that you can have. So even if it is something like that, or a small action item, like tell them to look up something and bring it back to you, or whether it be to research a recipe or something like that. Like, just have something that's not a huge town and protest or this, that may be a lot, right? But just like something really, really small. And also when you're trying to meet other parents, if you already have a relationship with a parent, have that person vouch for you, right? Like it's about relationship building and getting to know people. A lot about relationships is networking through other people. So if you can have someone that can introduce you to another group of parents, that's going to help credentialize you. You're going to have someone that vouches for you, and the person's going to be that much more open, that much quicker. And then if you're going to other meetings that you're going to be the complete stranger, like let's say if you were going to another school where you're just like now starting your school garden program, if you have a parent that from school A that you can take to new school B that can vouch for you and say, hey, I'm from this community 8 blocks away, and this is what they have done with our school, and this is the changes we've seen. That is going to be way different than you as your organization representing yourself, because at that point you are a salesperson, right? Like a salesperson always has the best product, right? But if you can take someone else that can provide that testimonial and say, yes, this is what they've done for my school, this is what they've done for my family, this is how it affected our school community, that is going to be very, very powerful. So if you can do that, please do.
Yeah. One thing that maybe we are missing is that parents identify themselves with other parents. It's good to have visuals, because parents love visuals. Take photos from other schools, let the parents interact with the new parents, and also always talk about the benefits. What are the benefits to be part of your program or your activity? And because parents always are busy, but when they see a benefit, they are more able to continue with this activity or engage in your program.
Awesome. Thank you, Obita. Are there any other tips that came up that as we're going through that you could think that would be beneficial to the listeners?
Yeah. Always have a list and give a follow-ups, and always show up, and also preferably when you are in a new school, just be volunteer in any activity of the schools. Take something to show them what you're doing, because parents are like they are like kids. If you continue showing up in the meetings, they will keep in their minds. But if you just show up when you need something from them, this is not work.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would also add on to that. So that was great, Obita. Thank you. Show up with good news and show up with bad news too. Like just show up. So sometimes things may not go. There are times that we've been developing new schoolyards where there was some sort of hang up, but I didn't just disappear for the year until the funding got approved, right? Because then you would look like that organization that, oh, you come through and you need something. It's like, no, I'm here to tell you what's going on, to give you the update. It's not great, but I'm also going to tell you like what happened, explain much of the why as I can, and take the heat if I have to. I'm going to stand there and it's like, okay, yes, we might have messed up, or it may not be my fault. It may not be my organization's fault. Sometimes things happen that are out of your control, and you may get some of that vent, but parents do appreciate you being there. Even if to be that sounding board, like, oh, we are disappointed in this, and you are there to listen to that disappointment, that is some of the best relationship building you can do, right? So yeah, I would like to open this up to any discussions. If you have any questions, again, please shoot them out. I would like to ask this question. Based on what we talked about today, what could you take back and use in your community? Are there any like specific things that you're like, oh, that is very interesting? Please do raise your hand. especially if you've not participated thus far. I'm going to start calling on you randomly. Promise. I promise I will. And then everybody's going to know that you are ready. All right, cool. So we got a couple more minutes.
Can I make an observation?
Yes, please.
In prepping for this session and kind of hearing both of you speak about your experience with parent engagement, I make a really strong connection between the strategies you use, how you show up at a school, what practices you put in place to be present, to be engaged, to be a partner to that school, are very similar to the strategies that we use with the teachers and school administrators. It's like it's being present, it's following up, it's being there when you don't need something from them, when you're there to give. It's all of those things that help build strong relationships with school communities. I think if we as an organization are able to intentionally extend that practice to parents and build out some structures maybe that allow us to do that more easily, I'm wondering if there might be a new trial activity that might be happening in any of our regions that might help support this work and tie it into our practice, because parents are a very important part of a school community, but because they're not there every day, it takes an extra step to meet them at that school or bring them back to the school when they might just be there for pickup or drop off, or so it's extra time and extra effort. But I think what you've highlighted and where I'm seeing a lot of value is just the power that parents have to influence a school, to drive change in a school is tremendous. And it might make our work easier in many cases, finding more engaged parents, having an administrator spend time supporting a school garden, if that voice is coming from the parents, if we've spent some time investing in there.
Yeah, and I think that's the great word, like investing that time into the parents to help you achieve your mission, to achieve your organization's goals. I think that's exactly right. Yeah. So for the engagement practices that you're doing, it's definitely translate into parents, because at the end of the day, we're talking about engaging with people, right? So some of the strategies that you may be using to engage with teachers, please see what translates over into parents, and also leverage your relationship with the teachers into engaged parents, because they already have that natural connection, right? So talk to your teachers about what parent that they can introduce you to, because they're going to have that relationship. They're going to know what that parent is interested in. They're going to know if that parent has time to have these conversations, if they'd be open to it, so they can do some of that legwork for you. Even if sometimes you have to communicate through a teacher to the parents in order, can you make sure that this thing gets home, right? Because teachers know how to get in touch with parents, right? You may not have the right phone number if you go to the main office. That teacher does, right? The teacher knows who to call, or maybe which households to call, and how to get in touch, or what folder to put that piece of paper in to make sure mom or dad reads it. The teacher is a great resource for you. I think that was up there before. Are there any closing things that anyone would like to say from our audience in a virtual world? I know I think Diana's hand has been up this entire time. So Diana, if you do have something to say, please put your hand down and then re-raise it, and then I'll know that you're actually there. All right, cool. All right. So a couple lessons learned. Use effective messengers and messages. Make sure you are walking the walk. So model the behavior that you're looking for. Provide any training and support that parents may need. Focus on winnable changes. So especially when you're first starting out, it's kind of like that low-hanging fruit thing, just to get your base motivated, trying things together. Yeah, and utilize those policy levers. Like if there are things that you can work with parents on changing maybe some of the way that the school is functioning, like Sam was saying, like the power is in the parents. So if you need to do any of that, please do so. If you have any other questions, please stay in touch with us. We already have a great relationship with Sam, which I greatly appreciate.
Shout out to the garden educators on the Chicago team too, who I think probably work with you even more than I do, and who actually introduced the idea that we reach out to you for this session in the first place. So
awesome. Yeah. Shout out to y'all. Y'all know me. I'll be seeing you soon. If there's an email you sent me that I haven't responded to, I was getting ready for this, and that's why. But yes, please do stay in touch. You have Kenneth, you have Ovita. We are at your disposal. Go to our website, look at our tools, look at our resources, and thank you very much.
thank you.
All right, cool. Anything else?
I think that's it. I really appreciate the time and you've invested in helping to share this great information with us.
Awesome. Is there anything that you needed to share with your people before they move on? I know y'all got a long day of training, or is this the last thing? Or?
We have one more session. It is starting now, and I'm the timekeeper.
Okay.
You all can get started without me, and I'll join in.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.